Now more of the Midcoast Morning Buzz with Richard and Jim. Radio 9, WCME.
Our guest this morning is State Representative Mattie Daughtry, Democrat of Brunswick, and she is here to talk about a new bill that she's introduced requiring Brunswick Town Council appointment of a member of the MRRA board, the Midcoast Regional Redevelopment Authority. Representative Daughtry, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, the first question is, why the heck isn't this a requirement anyway? I mean, it's Brunswick and Topsom. Why is there not local representation?
To be honest, I'm not quite sure. I wasn't involved in the initial setup of the MRRA board, but I know this has been a long-running complaint from both of these two communities. They're the host communities. The base is within the Brunswick town lines, as is the annex within Topsom's lines. And it's really a common-sense public policy matter to have two direct advocates for these communities.
Just to set the stage here for anyone not fully familiar with the issue, I'll do the best I can. Some people, including I guess myself, are branding this as something of a family feud among Democrats here on the Midcoast, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Your bill, again, Mattie, would require one board member of the Midcoast Regional Redevelopment Authority, which is the agency that is trying to bring new business and industry to the naval station. Your bill would require one board member of that agency to be appointed by the Brunswick Town Council, one by the Topsom Board of Selectmen. My understanding, you are supported in this move by a bunch of local legislators. I'll name them. Representative Andrew Mason of Topsom, Peter Kent of Bath.
That's actually, I do have to interrupt real quick, that's actually an old list. But the folks, the way the Augusta works with the bill, you get a sheet and you have to get 8 signatures as fast as you can before you submit it into the revisor's office. But the ones that I've actually been working with the hardest, Andrew Mason actually helped me co-write the bill, and Jennifer DeChant is one of the local sponsors. And then what we did was
Jennifer DeChant is a Democratic representative from Bath.
Correct. Representative DeChant was another co-sponsor. And then we actually went and talked to the Joint Standing Committee on Labor, Commerce, Research, and Economic Development, where the bill is actually going to have its public hearing, and sought sponsors from that committee.
Is there anybody on this list that I started to read who's changed their mind on this at all?
I'm not quite sure, to be honest. I've spoken with all of them, found out what their town was looking for and sort of what to do moving forward. My initial goal before I submitted this legislation was to see what people thought of MRRA and what was going on and what sort of channels of communication were open. And the structure of the bill sort of seeks to address what I heard was a definitive lack of communication between the MRRA board and the different municipalities. The biggest element of the bill is it adds 2 voting members to a board of 11, and those 2 members are the direct appointees, and it doesn't actually change the voting power of the board. We're not trying to get a majority for Brunswick or Topsom. We're just trying to get direct advocates for the 2 towns, and then I'm hoping to have that perfect mix of folks like we already have on there who have expertise within economic development.
Well, one who, of course, is opposing you in all this is Brunswick Senator Stan Grozovsky, longtime senator, 7 terms, and also State Representative Charlie Priest. Stan says the bill, and this is a quote, is unnecessary, takes the legislature out of the appointment process. Your reaction?
Honestly, I'm frustrated by that reaction. I have asked Stan to work with me every turn of the way, and it sort of seems like something we should be able to agree on to get 2 direct representatives on the MRRA board for the community that we both represent. I'm hoping that I can work with Stan and convince him to support the measure, but it's very clear that we need to change something about the structure of the board. People would not be so fired up about this if everything was working perfectly.
Well, Stan isn't here to cite a little bit more of his position. He also says the town already has a voice. 5 of the seats held by people who live in Brunswick. Isn't that a voice?
That's interesting, and I actually kept talking about this a lot when I was drafting the bill, that, Brunswick has 5 seats at the table. And this was actually one of the largest complaints from other communities, is they felt that they didn't have a seat at the table. And so my goal was to really draft a bill that gave a regional focus. And also within those 5 community members, I talked to council members and other folks living in the area, and many of them said that there wasn't communication between those members, that they felt like they were being cut out of the process, that, these 5 members happen to live in Brunswick, but they aren't advocating or coordinating directly with the host communities. So I hope that by giving 2 direct appointments to Brunswick and Topsom, it'll actually open up more seats to have a wider diversity of folks sitting at the table.
Okay. Well, not every town around the state has a redevelopment authority, because not every town is going through the transition and evolution that Brunswick is. But I think there have been some similar situations in other parts of the state in past years. There was the thing in Limestone not long ago.
It was actually just at Loring.
So I assume you've probably researched those situations a little bit, and are there any relevant precedents here?
Absolutely. Actually, we're one of the only redevelopment authorities that doesn't have direct appointments for its host communities. I was reading last night the Department of Defense's handout on community guidelines for base reuse, and within it, it specifically and explicitly details that you need to have community representation directly from the areas surrounding the base, and that these community leaders need to be direct advocates for the town, help folks navigate what happens when you're going to be losing your dependency on this defense economy, and how you can foster a entrepreneurial spirit and innovation. And the DOD says quite clearly that you need these leaders to have a direct relationship between the governing body of the community and the redevelopment authority.
In your opinion, how is MRRA doing as an agency to attract new business? I see Wild Oats is going to expand down there as well. These businesses are dealing with MRRA itself. Is not the board just kind of a token?
Well, I'd hope they're not a token. They're actually doing great work. MRRA is doing a fantastic job of getting business out there. Wild Oats is thinking of moving out there. We're incredibly fortunate to have SMCC, Southern Maine Community College. Priority Group is looking to invest over $20 million on the base. We have Malachy that just opened. We have Kestra out there. We have some wonderful opportunities. But what happens to Brunswick Landing and the base will intimately affect Brunswick and Topsom for generations to come, and they need to be partners. We need to find out about things that are going on there before they become a headline in the newspaper, and really just be partners 100%. Everyone needs to work together on this. And one of the biggest complaints I heard from folks is they felt like these municipalities weren't having a seat at the table, nor were they able to work with the partners involved.
Okay, we're getting some sense of how local legislators feel about this issue. They're making their feelings known. What kind of a sense do you get from the broader legislature? Because I could see it working 2 ways, just in my head, not being familiar with the situation. I could see these legislators thinking about, well, if this happened in my town or in my backyard, I would probably want to see my local officials have some control over the situation, the position you're taking. But they might also say, hey, we're a part of state government, and this is a state board here, effectively. The MRRA board is. So, maybe we should justifiably have some power and control here.
What I'm hearing from the greater legislative body is that most people are agreeing with your first statement that you need local control, local representation, but I've actually been arguing for both, and I think that's what keeps getting misconstrued in this, is that it's only 2 direct appointments for Brunswick and Topsom, and the rest are from the greater regional community, and still have the same oversight and appointment process as the MRRA board has always had. So really all it's adding is that element of local control while still mixing it with that larger, broader net of folks.
Yeah, that's a critical point. You're calling for 2 of 11, right?
Well, actually, it'll add 2 additional seats, so the total makeup of the board would be 13 members. So we're not asking for a majority; we're solely asking for a seat at the table.
I did not realize that detail. I didn't know you were adding seats.
Just 2 members,
so
that
2
way
of
it doesn't
13.
change the makeup, and thus, we're able to still have a great mix of folks. And I actually redefined the primary impact communities so that it's focused a little tighter on the towns directly surrounding the base, and then the bill would then urge the governor to make his nominations from the wider regional pick, look at the county level.
I would assume the governor is not crazy about your proposal.
I have not actually spoken with him on this one, so I'm in the dark on this. I don't know where he comes in.
Yeah, but You hear things, don't you?
Actually, nothing on this. If I get to talk with him about it, I'm going to mention local control. He served on the Waterville Board of Selectmen. He actually just vetoed the superintendent residency bill, and his part of his reasoning is because he actually helped write the charter that stated the superintendent needed to live in Waterville. So I'm hoping I can appeal to his local control experience and allegiances.
Well, I would say that I have not heard any statements from him, written or spoken or otherwise, and it would seem to be a pretty politically dicey thing for him to oppose local control, because for one thing, that's kind of a bedrock principle of conservatism, and local control just tends to be popular.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. I think it's something that definitely fits within.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but hasn't he been a staunch advocate of the governor maintaining control over MRRA?
He has, within a certain point. I actually put the initial bill in as a placeholder bill when he was discussing setting a state tax structure out at the base, which would have cut the surrounding communities out of TIF negotiations. So this actually started as a placeholder to sort of defend against that. But honestly, we haven't actually heard anything regarding MRRA from the governor since about January, I do believe. So,
okay, to be continued.
Where do you go from here, Mattie, on this? What's the process?
Well, we have a public hearing this morning at 9:30 a.m. If you Google the Joint Standing Committee on Labor, Commerce, Research, and Economic Development, you can find the audio broadcast page if you folks want to listen online. I'd love to have community members contact me and let me know how they feel about this issue. I can be reached on my website, which is www.mattiedaughtry.com. And we're going to hear today what advocates and supporters say for the bill and what folks who oppose the bill say. And then it'll be up to the committee to make a decision.
State Representative Mattie Daughtry, Democrat of Brunswick, talking about her new bill requiring Brunswick Town Council appointment of a member to the MRRA board, the Midcoast Regional Redevelopment Authority. Mattie, thanks a lot. Radio 9 WCME.